Research says post-Roe between last July and this March, there were over 24,000 fewer U.S. abortions. The White House is violating federal law by paying for military abortions. Addressing that, Arkansas Senator Tommy Tuberville is holding up military promotions. The White House is offering to make things right with the senator by promoting a Senate committee vote on the matter. Coach Tuberville says no. The only way to make things right is to stop violating federal law. This is Life News Radio. It is not enough to hope that abortion-minded women should choose adoption. We must encourage the thinking of adoption as a loving, holy sacrifice. We can help encourage mothers in crisis pregnancies to not fear, but to consider adoption as part of God's plan and help them consider what God wants for their child. For more information and encouragement, visit holyfamilyadoption.org. holyfamilyadoption.org. In other stories, Friday is the day Iowans could hear that their heartbeat abortion ban is allowed to take hold by Iowa's Supreme Court. Governor Kim Reynolds says she will not rest until Iowa's courts allow the will of the people in abortion regulations. Oklahoma health officials say White House cuts targeting Oklahoma's Title X after its abortion bans have no basis in law. Title X funds contraception as family planning, but prohibits funding abortion for those ends. And Canadians continue embracing arranged early dying and now are seeing sharp increases in government-assisted suicides. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
I've got some good news and some good news. Which would you like to hear first? Hi, this is Zach Krajacek, Director of Appeals and Sponsorships at the Station of the Cross. Okay, let's start with the good news. We've raised $671,000 for our spring appeal. Thank you for your incredible generosity. Now on to the other good news. Because of the great momentum the past few weeks, the deadline for reaching our goal has been extended by 1 week to Friday, June 23rd. Help us reach the goal by that date so that we can receive an additional $30,000 from our challenge gift donor and develop the best possible programming and listening experience for you. We still need to raise $129,000 to reach the goal. Call today, 1-877-711-8500, or visit thestationofthecross.com, use the donation page of your iCatholic radio app, or return the envelope from our mailing. Thank you for your generosity, and I look forward to giving you some more good news next week. God bless you.
This is Franciscan Media's Saint of the Day for June 19th. Today we celebrate Saint Romuald. After a wasted youth, Romuald saw his father kill a relative in a duel over property. In horror, Romuald fled to a monastery near Ravenna in Italy. He founded monasteries and hermitages throughout Italy in the early 11th century. During part of his life, he suffered great spiritual dryness. One day, as he was praying, Romuald experienced a deep sense of God's presence, which never left him. His reinvigorated faith helped him immensely when he was wrongly accused of a scandalous crime. Amazingly, his fellow monks believed the charges. Romuald was given a severe penance, forbidden to offer Mass, and excommunicated. He endured his unjust sentence in silence for 6 months. At the Campus Mondoli Monastery that he founded in Tuscany, Romuald began the Camaldolese Benedictine order, which united the monastic and hermitic traditions. Eventually, Romuald's father became a monk as well, regularly turning to his son for the courage to remain faithful. Romuald died in 1027. He is often depicted in art with his fingers to his lips, requesting silence. There's more about the saints along with inspiration and Catholic resources at our website, saintoftheday.org. From Franciscan Media, this has been Saint of the Day.
This is Joe McLean, and you're listening to the Station of the Cross, proclaiming the fullness of the truth with clarity and charity.
Heard around the world on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McClain starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Back in the home studio. Boy, does it feel good to be back here. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about something. I got to share something with you that you may not know. You might know, but you might not know either. Did you know that there were prophecies back in 1610 that pertain to our time today, the 19th and 20th and the 21st century? I'm talking about Our Lady of Buen Suceso de Purificación. I'm talking about Mother Mariana de Jesus Torres and what she received on the fourth apparition. I mean, her life was just utterly incredible. I'm going to share a taste of that with you at 15 past the hour, because I think we're living some of this right now. And I think some of these prophecies really do scratch where it itches most. So stick around for that. That's coming up at 15 past the hour. 30 past the hour, Michael Hichborn from the Lepanto Institute is back. His report is out. He's been hitting the news. He's been hitting the streets. He's been all over the country this past week. Well, he's on with us at 30 past to talk about his report on the Catholic health care system that's been doing trans surgeries, trans therapies, abortions, and other issues. There's an entire detailed report with showing all the receipts, as they say, and that's coming up at 30 past the hour. So a lot to talk about today, a lot to get into. We, of course, will leave links to everything we talk about on our website at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. So as soon as the show goes off the air, Jake, the producer, puts the show notes up at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Let's pray. Let's get into it. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And now your saint of the day.
Saint Juliana Falconieri, pray for us. Juliana was born, almost miraculously late in the marriage, to a pious older noble couple in Florence in 1270. Her saintly uncle, Alexis Falconieri, was one of the 7 holy founders of the Servite Order, or the Order of Servants of Mary. He greatly influenced Juliana's own piety, and from another saint, Philip Benizi, she received the founding habit of the Third Order of the Servites, or the Mantellate Sisters, which were eventually established formally in the early 14th century with Juliana as the first Mother Superior, serving as such until her death. Though she was plagued with regular digestive illnesses all her life, she remained a cheerful and enthusiastic servant of her fellow sisters, and the sick and poor for whom they cared. It was said that out of pure modesty, she never even looked a man in the face, and she had such a pious horror of sin that she would nearly faint at the very mention of it. After decades of unceasing service to the sick, as well as profound mortification and other acts of charity, Juliana died in her convent in the year 1341. On her deathbed, she suffered constant vomiting and was unable to receive the Blessed Sacrament, but she asked the priest to spread a corporal over her breast and simply lay the host upon it. After a few moments, the host disappeared, and Juliana breathed her last. Left imprinted on her breast was the exact same image of a cross that had adorned the host. Hailed as a saint immediately, especially by her order, Juliana was canonized in 1737 by Clement XII. Saint Juliana Falconieri, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Breitbart reports federal court rules in favor of Maine lobstermen over punitive regulations set by the National Marine Fisheries Service. A federal appeals court invalidated regulations set by the National Marine Fisheries Service, which marine lobstermen or Maine lobstermen said could put them out of business. These new regulations would cut the number of lobster traps allowed in half and require fishermen to switch to new gear. However, the court found that the service's opinion is contrary to law. Judge Douglas Ginsburg wrote for the court when striking down the regulation. The regulations set by the National Marine Fisheries Service are influenced by the agency's goal to protect the endangered North Atlantic right whale. However, Maine Lobstermen Association said that right whales aren't found off the coast of Maine, and there has not been a documented right whale entanglement associated with Maine lobstermen since 2004. The Post-Millennial reports 1 dead, 28 injured in shooting at Chicago area Juneteenth event. 1 person was killed and at least 28 were injured in a shooting at a Juneteenth celebration in Willowbrook, Illinois, near Chicago. Police told reporters that at least 10 of the injured were taken to local hospitals, 2 of whom were in critical condition, while others suffered graze wounds. The shooting took place in a parking lot outside a shopping center in what officers are calling an illicit street takeover, in which 200 to 300 people were gathered. Juneteenth is a recently created national holiday that has been celebrated in Texas and within the Black community prior to its national recognition. It commemorates the anniversary of those who were enslaved in Texas, learning that they had been freed by Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation 2 years after the fact. LifeSite News reports LA Dodgers protest rally dwarfs support for blasphemous Pride Night. The massive rally in Los Angeles against the Dodgers honoring of anti-Catholic drag nuns drew several thousand people and dwarfed the turnout for the Drag Queens Award ceremony in what protest organizers are celebrating as a huge success. In fact, more than 5,000 participants showed up for the prayer rally outside Dodger Stadium on Friday, according to Catholics for Catholics, a Phoenix-based group that organized the event. John Yep, the group's CEO, described the rally as a victory for Catholics and a wake-up call for the U.S. bishops, adding that, quote, "We won't wait for them to lead anymore," close quote. However, Bishop Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas, led the prayer rally, which began at 3 p.m. Pacific time, and a procession outside the stadium protesting and making reparation for the Dodgers' celebration of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And those are your headline news. You might catch the John Yep interview on our YouTube channel, by the way. We'll link to it in the show notes today, thestationacross.com/ACT. The gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 through 42. Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. Should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on the one who wants to borrow." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. The Ignatius Catholic Study Bible today says, Jesus forbids the misuse of Mosaic law to justify private vengeance. Exodus 21:24 was meant to limit retribution. It was never an invitation to inflict punishment for personal injuries or extend personal vengeance beyond the injury suffered. The punishment had to fit the crime, but not exceed it. Jesus eliminates such a policy of retaliation from personal life. See, for instance, Romans 12:17. St. Gregory the Great, a 6th century pope, said, "There are who are so far to be endured as they rob us of our worldly goods, but there are whom we ought to hinder, and that without breaking the law of charity, not only that we may not be robbed of what is ours, but lest they be robbing others, destroy themselves." And in other words, we have to make judgment calls here. You can't just let people rob you blindly all the time. There are certain circumstances where you just say, whatever, it's just a material thing, whatever, I'm not going to put my life at risk or the lives of others at risk. But there are other times where we have to stand for justice. That's what St. Gregory's talking about here. He says, we ought to fear much more for the men who rob us than to be eager to save the inanimate things that they take from us. We should fear much more for the men, he says. Not fear the men, but fear for the men, for their salvation, I think he's speaking of. He goes on to say, when peace with our neighbor is banished, the heart on the matter of worldly possessions, it is plain that our estate is more loved than our neighbor. So we have to put first things first, priorities for the salvation of souls over our material goods. St. Augustine had a lot to say today. I mean, I think the man wrote a book just on this one topic. Here's part of it. He says, this law, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, was enacted to repress the flames of mutual hate and to be a check on their undisciplined spirits. For who, when he would take revenge, was ever content to return just so much harm as he had received, right? I know. It's like there's no, we always want to do more, right? We got to check that thing and go above and beyond. We got to give them more than they gave us. I think that's what Augustine is talking about. Do we not see men who have suffered more trifling hurt straight away, plot murder, thirst for blood, and hardly find evil enough that they can do to their enemies for the satisfying their rage? Just think about road rage, for instance. How quickly things escalate, like, say, at Juneteenth parties in Chicago or in my own temper, because I lose it all the time over trifle things. We must check our anger, lest it get out of control so fast. Amen? Let us meditate upon that today. Coming up after the break, I need to share with you a bit of the signs of the end times prophesied back in 1610 to an incredible woman in Ecuador. It's all coming up next. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network is dedicated to answering the critical need of access to quality, consistent, professional, and proven Catholic programming. We cannot rely on other media outlets to properly represent our church. Catholic radio reaches Catholics, non-Catholic Christians, and non-believers alike. As a nonprofit lay organization financially independent of your diocese, our apostolate is listener-supported.
Did you know that an unwanted car or truck can make a great gift? When the time comes to purchase a new one, consider donating your old car or truck to the Station of the Cross. We have a quick and simple way for you to get rid of your unwanted vehicle while supporting the solid Catholic programming you love listening to on your radio, online, and through your mobile devices. Whether they run or not, we accept cars, trucks, RVs, boats, and motorcycles. It's a great opportunity for you to give more than you might normally be able to. At the same time, you'll be clearing out space in your garage or driveway, ridding yourself of an unwanted vehicle. Just visit us online at thestationofthecross.com or call 1-866-628-CARS, 1-866-628-2277. May God bless you for your generosity in support of Catholic radio.
What you're offering and giving to me, you deserve to get back because you're offering more than I can give.
I learned so much through the Station of the Cross. I listen to the radio station daily, and I absolutely love it.
I was attending the chapel and places like that, and through your programs, I was able to find out how other Protestants had come back into the Catholic Church. God bless the Station of the Cross.
Donate today at thestationofthecross.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. It's so good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Coming up at 30 past the hour, Michael Hichborn is back on the program to talk about his latest report. Largest Catholic health network performs same-sex change operations. But it gets worse than that, actually. This report, a very detailed, showing all the receipts kind of report, lists all of these hospitals, and it's sex change therapies, it's the actual surgeries, it's abortions, contraception, and so much more. In fact, there's one, Virginia Mason Medical Center, checks all the boxes, and they're not good boxes. All of that and more is coming up with Michael Hichborn from the Lepanto Institute. Do join us if you can. But there are lots of stories in the news that are of great concern to me, and I'm sure they are to you as well. Here's a story that I saw over the weekend. It says, open the pod bay doors, Bezos. Amazon shuts down man's entire smart home after delivery worker claims racism. I'll summarize this for you, but there was a house. It had the Amazon Puck, the little Echo device, the Alexa thingy dingy. Like, it's got one of those, right? It's also got the Amazon doorbell ringer, right? So you can see, you can video footage. You can, from anywhere on planet Earth with your phone, you can see who's at your door. You can talk to them directly. Well, an Amazon guy came in sort of late at night, actually, dropped off a package, and apparently there was nobody there at the time, and the doorbell gave an automatic response. The driver claimed it was racism. So the driver reported the home back to home office, and an executive at Amazon shut off all of their connected services. All of them. The ringer, the Puck, his online connected services with his Amazon account, and so much more. Just like that, shut it off. The guy had to call and just say, hey, what's going on here, to find out that the driver accused him of racism, only to go back and look at the archive and prove, in fact, that didn't happen at all. Nothing could be further from the truth. It took days to get his services back. And as I was reading the story, I thought, golly gee whiz, look how dependent we are upon these connected devices. And immediately what popped in my brain was Our Lady of Buen Suceso of the Purification. Our Lady of Good Success of the Purification. Why did this pop into my head? Because it's a contribution of many things going on in our life that all come together, like, say, for instance, the drag queen stories. The endless amounts of transgender ideology stories in the news today are off the charts. You can't scroll through a news column without getting some sort of LGBT this, trans that, crazy nonsense. The wars, the rumors of wars, the scandals within the church, the corruption of youth is really getting worse and worse by the day. And again, what popped in my head was Our Lady of Good Success. Our Lady of Good Success, Our Lady of Buen Suceso de Purificación of Ecuador, Our Lady of Quito, Ecuador. Now, you may not know about this story, or you might know about this story. There is a great book that I would highly encourage you to check out. In fact, I'm going to link to it today. And it's this one, The Story of Our Lady of Good Success, a novena by Reverend Father Manuel Sousa Pieria. We're going to put a link to it in the description and the show notes today. If you go to the stationofthecross.com/ACT, you'll find the links there. But let me just share with you a bit of the video here. But before I do, I'm going to play this clip for you so you can get a sense of the prophecies that are involved in that happened in the year 1610 to Mother Mariana, an incredible woman born in Spain. She went across the sea to great tumult. She had many visions of the devil trying to attack her and her sisters. This woman went through so much in her young life. In fact, she endured the pains of hell in order to save the soul of one of her mortal enemies, a woman who was determined to imprison, to punish, and to even kill Mother Mariana. And Mother Mariana volunteered to suffer the torments of hell in order to save this woman. And in fact, the Lord gave her this opportunity, and the woman will remain in purgatory until the end of time. This story is utterly amazing and incredible, but there are prophecies that this young visionary, this young mystic, received in the year 1610 that apply to our times today. The TFP has made a video that summarizes this well. The book goes into greater detail. Again, we're going to link to that. But let me roll this clip for you to give you some taste of the prophecies of Our Lady of Ecuador, Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador.
Our Lady said to Mother Mariana that in the future, unbridled passions will give way to a total corruption of customs because Satan will reign through the Masonic sects, targeting...
Do you hear that? The Satan will reign through the Masonic sects. This was the year 1610. That would not even begin to be a thing until 1760-something. So, I mean, this was a full 100-plus years before any of that ever happened. She would never have known that otherwise.
The children in particular, to ensure general corruption. Oh, how it hurts me to tell you that there will be many and enormous public and hidden sacrileges. The sacrament of matrimony, which symbolizes the union of Christ with the Church, will be thoroughly attacked and profaned. Masonry, then reigning, will implement iniquitous laws aimed at extinguishing this sacrament.
Divorce on demand. How much has the church acquiesced to divorce on demand in our culture today? I myself am a product of many divorces, actually. My parents having been divorced and then remarried and divorced again. So we all know the story. It's a familiar story. My generation thinks it normal now. That has been a major problem, let alone the attack on marriage, just with the LGBTQ ideology of today. When is the last time you heard an incredibly strong and powerful defense of marriage between a man and a woman trying to raise their children in the sacraments by the bishops today? I mean, some do, but not all. Why is that not a united front? Why is that not an all hands on deck, we must hold the line kind of an argument from the hierarchy of the church today? It isn't. And there's so much within the church that would be happy to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nod, nod, synodality. Let's just accept them as they are and give a pass to this type of crazy in our world today. That's what this is going on. That's what the prophecy is talking about.
They will make it easy for all to live in sin, thus multiplying the birth of illegitimate children without the church's blessing. Secular education will contribute to a scarcity of priestly and religious vocations. The Holy Sacrament of Holy Orders will be ridiculed, oppressed, and despised, for in this both the church and God himself are oppressed and reviled.
And I got to tell you, ever since the 2001 church sex scandal out of Boston, which I've shared with you my own experience of having lived through that while living up there at the time, ever since then, you can't go anywhere. You can't. Every time I comment online about the Catholic faith or whatever, I always get blasted for those pedophile priests, those pedophile child molesting priests, right? I mean, it's a common story now. Is that not what this prophecy basically just said? That the priesthood would be maligned, the priesthood would be denigrated, the priesthood would be attacked, and it's an attack against God himself. Because it isn't just a gray-haired man in Rome wearing white that determines that there ought to be priests, but it was God himself, the God-man, Jesus Christ, who instituted the priesthood in the upper room, something I've talked about many times on the show. So this prophecy in 1610 is basically telling us our own times right now.
Since he is represented by his priests. The devil will work to persecute the ministers of the Lord in every way, working with baneful cunning to destroy the spirit of their vocation and corrupting many. Those who will thus scandalize the Christian flock will bring upon all priests the hatred of bad Christians and the enemies of the one holy Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church. This apparent triumph of Satan will cause enormous suffering to the good pastors of the church and to the supreme pastor and vicar of Christ on earth.
How many have left the priesthood as a result to the sex abuse scandals within the church? How many? Many. The answer is many. Just think about the Legionnaire scandal. Its founder, Maciel, who molested so many, to include his own biological children. Many left the Legionnaires as a result to that scandal becoming public, let alone the scandals within the church that now are paid out millions and millions of dollars because of the scandals of so many who were allowed to continue in their priesthood, allowed to have access to children and be shuffled around their diocese by other priests, bishops, and hierarchy. It's a grave, evil scandal. And it is reverberated through the consequences of how that scandal, that public scandal, has affected so many others, which is why the Summer of Shame, when former Cardinal McCarrick, got finally reported and finally suspended, why it was such a grave scandal to so many, to include myself. That was the summer for me where I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't just pretend that the sky is blue and the sun is shining and everything is happy-go-lucky and we just got to, keep going talking about all the good stuff, the fluffy bunny stuff, and ignore all the difficulty. That one for me was what changed. We can do this no more. This prophecy in 1610 is a prophecy for our time.
Earth, who, a prisoner in the Vatican, will shed secret and bitter tears in the presence of God our Lord, asking for light, sanctity, and perfection for all the clergy of the world, to whom he is King and Father. Unhappy times will come wherein those who should fearlessly defend the rights of the church will instead, blinded despite the light, give their hand to the church's enemies and do their bidding.
Should speak up.
But when evil seems triumphant, and when authority abuses its power, committing all manner of injustices and oppressing the weak, their ruin shall be near. They will fall and crash to the ground. Then will the church, joyful and triumphant like a young girl, reawaken and be comfortably cradled in the arms of my most dear and elect Son of those times. If he lends an ear to the inspirations of grace, one of which will be the reading of these great mercies that my Son and I have had toward you, we shall fill him with graces and very special gifts, and will make him great on earth and much greater in heaven. There we have reserved a precious seat for him, because, heedless of men, he will have fought for truth and ceaselessly defended the rights of the church, deserving to be called martyr. At the end of the 19th century, and throughout a great part of the 20th, many heresies will be propagated in these lands. The small number of souls who will secretly safeguard the treasure of faith and virtues will suffer a cruel, unspeakable, and long martyrdom. Many will descend to their graves through the violence of suffering and will be counted among the martyrs who sacrificed themselves for the country and the church. To be delivered from the slavery of these heresies, those whom the merciful love of my Son has destined for this restoration will need great willpower, perseverance, courage, and confidence in God.
One thing I got to point it out. A minute ago, he said, and he's reading the prophecies. Again, the book I'm linking to is greater detail on all of this. This is just a summary. But the prophecy was, when the bishops decide to courageously defend the church's teaching in society, lead like men, lead like fathers, their sons, the priests, the clergy, and the laity will get behind them. Find courage, speak boldly, speak truth, and the faithful will follow. Is that not what happened in Dodger Stadium on Friday? In the face of grave error, in the face of grave evil that would destroy innocence itself, the prophecies go into greater detail and depth about the attempt to destroy innocence, to destroy youth, to destroy virginity itself, and how Holy Mother Church, through a courageous pope and a courageous bishop and a courageous priest and a courageous laity standing up to these grave errors, can bring about a good and beautiful reality of hope. You want a better day? You want hope? Then we have to act like brave Catholics who are prepared to be martyrs for the faith. That is the essence of the prophecy in 1610 in Ecuador. If you've never heard of it, you got to dive deep. You got to know about this prophecy. We're going to link to it. Check out the show notes. We'll be right back.
Hear what listeners are saying about the free iCatholic Radio mobile app.
Through the iCatholic Radio app, I have listened to the sermons and teachings several times. The effect has been a deeper understanding of my faith and Catholic tradition. This app has truly been a blessing in my life and has increased my faith.
Listen live or at your convenience to your favorite shows. Just search for iCatholic Radio in your app store today.
Here at the Station of the Cross, we proudly bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners through radio and mobile devices, and we're grateful for the feedback we've received.
It just really connected me to my faith. I always considered myself 100% Catholic, but didn't really realize that I wasn't fully practicing my faith, so I learned so much through the Station on the Cross and began just getting deeper in my prayers and feeling just so much closer to God and so well versed in learning more about the Bible and more about what actually it means to be Catholic. So it became very, very important to me, and I listen to the radio station daily, and I absolutely love it. I make it a regular practice of donating every time they have their fundraising, and just love it and wouldn't want it to ever go away.
If you've been blessed by listening to the Station of the Cross, let us know. Call 1-877-888-6279, extension 112. Then share your testimonial with us.
Keep up to date with the shows we bring you each day on the Station of the Cross by viewing our programming grid on our website, thestationofthecross.com, and on our iCatholic Radio app. Just click the menu icon in the top left portion of our app and select the link to our programming grid. That's at thestationofthecross.com and on our free iCatholic Radio app for Android and Apple mobile devices.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. Daily Fetch reports feds quietly dropped charges against Democrat donor SBF in multi-billion-dollar FTX scam. Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, the disgraced founder of collapsed FTX crypto exchange and the second biggest Democrat donor in the 2022 midterms, had several charges against him dropped by the feds. Crypto giant FTX went bankrupt last year, losing billions and wrecking the lives of thousands of crypto investors. On Tuesday, SBF pleaded not guilty in New York to an additional 8 charges related to the collapse of his former crypto exchange FTX and hedge fund Alameda Research. However, federal prosecutors announced on Thursday that they would drop several of those charges. The Associated Press reports heat wave triggers big storms. Power outages in U.S. Southeast raises wildfire concerns. Triple-digit temperatures prompted heat advisories across much of the southern United States, triggered thunderstorms that knocked out power from Oklahoma to Mississippi, and whipped up winds that raised wildfire threats in Arizona and New Mexico. A suspected tornado struck near Scranton, Arkansas early on Sunday, destroying chicken houses and toppling trees onto homes, the National Weather Service said. There were no immediate reports of serious injuries. Meteorologists said that the dangerous and potential record-breaking temperatures would continue into midweek over southern Texas and much of the Gulf Coast. Storms producing damaging winds, hail, and possibly tornadoes could strike the lower Mississippi Valley. Catholic News Agency reports U.S. bishops vote to tackle trans. The U.S. bishops voted Friday to move forward with a significant revision to their document offering guidance to Catholic healthcare institutions on the issue of transgender surgeries and hormone treatments and their incompatibility with the Church's teaching on sex and the dignity of the human person. Well, praise be to God, that's good news. And those are your headline news. Special shout out to our 300 Club members listening on ICR. Good morning to you, iCatholic Radio. I appreciate having you guys on the team today. Thanks for doing it. You can always listen to the Catholic Radio, 24/7, clear as crystal, right on your phone. Anytime you want, just download the iCatholic Radio app. You can watch the live video feed for today's program, for instance. You can get the podcast of our show. There's other shows like Father Mateg and Mother Miriam and a bunch of others. You can check them all out right in your app. Just download the iCatholic Radio app in your iOS and Android and join the ICR 300 team every morning right here on the program. We're going to link to that over on the website, thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Joining us now once again is our good friend Michael Hichborn from the Lepanto Institute. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning to your listeners.
Praise be to God. Glad to have you guys on the team today. Did you make it to the Dodger Stadium on Friday?
Unfortunately, I didn't. I had to take a flight home while they were doing the event, but that was an adventure in and of itself.
I know you were trying hard to get there. I mean, we were texting each other last week, and you've been all over the country. You've been on a big tour. What's going on?
Well, I went out to San Diego to protest the Association of U.S. Catholic Priests, the dissident organization that is pushing women's ordination and homosexuality in the priesthood, and even calling for a change in the Catholic ethic for human sexuality and human sexual behavior. That's a direct quote from their latest document on homosexuality. And I mean, these guys are just absolute off the rails, and unfortunately, they've got top cover from a lot of bishops and cardinals in the United States.
We live in crazy times. In the last segment, I was sharing a bit of the prophecy that came out of Quito, Ecuador in 1610. And it's like reading the headlines today. Corruption of children in Catholic schools was a part of the prophecy. The Freemasonic sects trying to destroy marriage. You see corruption within the hierarchy, the dismantling of the authority of the hierarchy through scandals. I mean, it just seems like that prophecy had so much to do with our day and our time. It's even mentioned the 19th and 20th century in those prophecies. So we live in crazy times today, and you would never think that the Catholic hierarchy or anybody associated with the Catholic hierarchy would support these things, but they do every single day. You just got to go on Twitter, and they're happy to say this publicly. They don't even hide in the shadows now. And now your report is out about the largest Catholic health network performs same-sex operations. But I got to tell you, Michael, your report is way more depressing than just that, because it details that, and it details even more. I mean, you're showing the receipts here. Just the executive summary alone, I think, is worth the price of admission. But like, I go through this list of every hospital within that network, and you've got all of these like bad things that they do: sex change surgeries, hormone treatments, abortion, contraception. And one of these hospitals checks every single box. How is this even possible, Michael Hichborn?
Well, it's possible because the church has exchanged true charity, which is drawing souls to Christ, for profit-making industry. And that's really at the crux of the problem, that what used to be one of the charitable arms of the church, healing the sick, is now just that. It's just a profit or a profitable industry, and they've turned away from the religious orders that used to run these kind of institutions to help people to make them well so that they can properly worship our Lord, and they've been taken over. They've been taken over by the industrial complex that is big medicine, and now you have. I mean, it is the largest Catholic health network in the country. They are performing transgender surgeries, and what's more, they have Catholic hospitals that are referring for transgender operations and the replacement, the hormones for sex change therapies, and even giving puberty blockers to kids, which is one of the most diabolical elements of the entire thing.
Yeah, my mind is racing with so many things. One is, how is this? Like, how are we just finding out about this? You know what I mean? Like, how does this creep up on you? It's a large Catholic network of hospitals in our country. One would think the bishops would have known about this, early in the process and did something about it. I mean, I just read an article out of the CNA. I reported on it in the news segment. Bishops are like trying to get more bold in their statements, and that's nice and all, but is that enough?
No, they really have to grab the reins and take control. Coming out with a statement saying, we're sad that this happened, or it's upsetting that this is going on, is ridiculous. What happened to the St. Patricks of the world, who formally condemned individuals who were doing extremely wicked things? And now they've got extremely wicked things happening under their own authority, and they aren't even lifting a finger to do something about that. And this is what's really horrifying. I mean, they are financing organizations like the Campaign for Human Development, which is giving funds to the enemies of the church. They are financing organizations like Catholic Relief Services, which is going overseas and implementing government programs to spread contraception and contraceptive ideologies. And, they hear the reports I put out on these things, and they either don't believe them or they try to dismiss them because it's big money. And when it comes to the Catholic hospitals, they've got the transgender stuff going on, and they have in a sense, they have an authority to stop it. They can strip their Catholic hospitals of their Catholic identity. They can also file canonical charges against Common Spirit with the Vatican and say, this is not a Catholic institution. It does not deserve to have the Catholic name. But so far, it's just crickets.
Now, I believe the story I reported on last week was it St. Francis out in San Francisco that was performing the surgery? They had like a video, like a promotion video of one of their customers, that kind of thing. Was it in San Francisco?
Yes. That's
did Corleone? Did Bishop Corleone speak out against that?
He has not, but the spokesman for the Archdiocese of San Francisco issued a clarification to the Pillar Catholic, simply saying, well, that wasn't a Catholic hospital. It follows a different set of rules under Common Spirit's merger with Dignity Health and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Common Spirit Health raised millions of dollars and gave them to the St. Francis Memorial Hospital. There are Catholic hospitals in the Common Spirit Network that are referring patients to St. Francis Memorial Hospital for their transgender surgeries. There are no clean hands here. And to simply issue a clarification that, well, this isn't a Catholic hospital, makes no difference. It's still a part of Common Spirit, and it's still doing these horrible, evil things.
So at the end of the day, why isn't there a much stronger reaction to this? I mean, I've been critical, to give you some sort of context. I've been critical of bishops like Cardinal Burke or Cardinal Mueller or others who have boldly spoken out, I would say, against the scandals within the church. And yet I've been critical of them. And someone would say, Joe, well, what is it you want them to do? Well, writing another book's not going to help. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. I want to see action. Words go only so far. Let's see some action here. And I kind of feel the same way here. So you listed a couple things a minute ago, but like really what ought to happen? If you could do anything to solve this problem today, Michael Hichborn, what would it be?
If I had the authority, Common Spirit would be stripped of its Catholic identity. That's rule number one. Honestly, I think that even if the bishops had control of this monster, they wouldn't be able to stop the horror show that's taking place. So the only thing left is really to strip it of its Catholic identity and to disaffiliate 100%. That would be step one. Step two would be for the diocese and for the bishops to lead public acts of reparation because of the grave evil that is being perpetrated in the name of the church. It is a scandal beyond scandals. And I just can't imagine what this looks like through the eyes of our Lord.
Why do you think more bishops don't publicly lead these acts of reparation, publicly stand firm? I mean, this is what I would want to see. Bishops standing out in the public square, proclaiming the truth in spite of whatever may come, and just being bold. Because when they do that, the lay faithful, they get energized. They love seeing bishops act boldly and be bold in public, especially when it means to stand for truth. I was going through the Gospels today and the commentary today, and St. Gregory the Great, St. Augustine, they all talk about this need to proclaim truth to your neighbor. And like if someone robs you, feel bad for the robber because he could be going to hell. Like that's the sentiment of St. Gregory the Great. And yet today, too many are like, well, let's just meet them where they're at. It's just okay. I mean, well, listen, we're all we all struggle. We all sin. We all fall short of the glory of God. But some of us go to confession to try to make up for that. And others don't. And we shouldn't give a pass.
I think that there are multiple layers to why the bishops aren't more bold about things like this. Number one, I wonder if they actually possess the true faith. I do wonder. I'm not saying they don't, but actions speak louder than words. And when you don't act as if you truly believe that people are going to hell, then people are going to be left to wonder if you really believe that people actually go to hell. So that's step one. Number two, I think that part of the real problem here is that the bishops are too focused on human respect. I think they are looking for that adulation that they desire, and they don't want to step on too many toes because it won't get them invited to too many parties. That's a very sad fact. Look at New York. Do you really think the Met Gala is going to invite Cardinal Dolan if he were to start condemning the horrible imagery that they put forth at the Met Gala? Of course not. So human respect is a big factor. There are many things that get involved with this.
Oh, boy. You're so right. Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador said, these priests who in this manner will scandalize the faithful will cause the hatred of these same faithful and the enemies of the Catholic, Apostolic, and Roman Church to fall upon all priests. This apparent triumph of Satan will bring with it enormous sufferings upon the good prelates of the Church and the overall majority of good priests, and upon the supreme shepherd and vicar of Christ on earth, who being a prisoner in the Vatican will shed secret and bitter tears in the presence of his God and Lord, asking for light, holiness, and perfection for the clergy of the whole world. Bad things happen when we don't stand up for truth. More on that coming up after this quick break. Michael Hichborn is our guest. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Franciscan Media's Saint of the Day for June 19th. Today we celebrate Saint Romuald. After a wasted youth, Romuald saw his father kill a relative in a duel over property. In horror, Romuald fled to a monastery near Ravenna in Italy. He founded monasteries and hermitages throughout Italy in the early 11th century. During part of his life, he suffered great spiritual dryness. One day, as he was praying, Romuald experienced a deep sense of God's presence, which never left him. His reinvigorated faith helped him immensely when he was wrongly accused of a scandalous crime. Amazingly, his fellow monks believed the charges. Romuald was given a severe penance, forbidden to offer Mass, and excommunicated. He endured his unjust sentence in silence for 6 months. At the Campus Mondoli Monastery that he founded in Tuscany, Romuald began the Camaldolese Benedictine order, which united the monastic and hermitic traditions. Eventually, Romuald's father became a monk as well, regularly turning to his son for the courage to remain faithful. Romuald died in 1027. He is often depicted in art with his fingers to his lips, requesting silence. There's more about the saints along with inspiration and Catholic resources at our website, saintoftheday.org. From Franciscan Media, this has been Saint of the Day.
You can listen to any of our network-produced programs at your convenience, wherever you enjoy podcasts. Hear a powerful sermon you need to share with a loved one? Maybe there's a guest or teaching segment that deserves another listen. You can find all of our shows on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, our website, and the free iCatholic radio app. Be uplifted in your faith. Listen today at thestationofthecross.com or on your favorite podcasting platform.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Coming up at the top of the hour, we say goodbye to the radio. We stay on for the after show and hang out with you directly. You get to drive the conversation. I wonder what you think about all of this, or whether or not you've ever heard of Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador in the year 1610, giving these prophecies that seem to just ring so very true today. I'd love to know. So you can hang out in the after show. All you got to do is go to thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You'll see the live video feed there, and there's links to some of the social feeds where you can go and comment directly. But it's the Telegram group that we love the most, because they're the insiders hanging out with us all the time, 24/7. You can join the Telegram group by getting onto the email list, the insiders list, which is also linked on the website at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. But joining us right now by phone again is Michael Hichborn from the Lepanto Institute, talking about his brand new report that's out on the largest Catholic health network performs same-sex change operations, or sex change operations rather. And it's really difficult to get through. And as I was quoting as we're going to the break, Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador, 1610, she talked about priests who loved money more than they loved their faith, and the unbridled luxury of our times would corrupt so many, and children would be the ones that would be the most victims. And aren't we seeing that? Aren't we seeing that not only just in the same-sex scandal within the Catholic Church, but we're seeing that in society as a whole. This great desire to corrupt souls. And Michael, I saw an article that came out, I think it was over the weekend or at the end of last week, here, Epic Times, who broke your story, by the way. Congratulations, Epic. You know, this article says, wearing shirts saying there are only two genders is not protected speech. This was a kid wearing a shirt to school, and he got in trouble for it. There are only two genders is what it says on his shirt. And a judge says that's not protected speech. You're not allowed to have that. Michael, we live in a time where you're not allowed to say there are two genders. We live in a time where Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. And how many Catholics give themselves over to Republican or Democrat ideology instead of being informed by their Catholic faith, let the chips fall where they may. We live in a time where like Chris Christie or many other Republicans will embrace errors like abortion, same-sex marriage, and so many other ills in society. And yet so many Catholics are rationalizing and justifying these choices, are they not?
Oh, they sure are. And again, this goes back to the human respect matter where everybody wants to kind of go along to get along. They don't want to have any real strife. They'll push an agenda or they'll say, we disagree on this particular matter, but let's talk about it. Well, you don't talk to somebody who thinks that the best way to heat their house is to burn your house down. There's no conversation to be had. And that's kind of where we are. That there are so many in society now that want to have this dialogue about grave moral evils upon which there really is no dialogue. It's either this is horribly evil and there's nothing to talk about, or, well, we need to find some way to compromise on this. You can't compromise.
You can't compromise. That's true. But yet we always do. How many Catholics running for office have to live by compromise? I'll never forget listening to Newt Gingrich talk about that many years ago now. And he tried to say, well, we have to compromise or else we'll never get anything done. But look where compromise has gotten us, Michael. Compromise has gotten us a society where divorce and remarriage is the norm. Nobody even pushes back on it anymore, let alone all this other ideology that's crammed down our throat, these drag queen nuns. A hate group against Catholic Church gets accepted as normal in society. Drag queen story hours everywhere, let alone all the other evils of society. We have compromised too much. Isn't it time to try something different?
Well, it's really funny. Our side, the simps on our side are all very much in favor of compromise and, well, we need to get along and all that kind of stuff. You know who doesn't compromise? The other side. They don't compromise on anything. You want to put in a restriction so that you aren't murdering babies the moment they're being born, and they scream bloody murder and they stand against you in a firm block. They're not going to let you actually put together any measure that's going to say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't kill babies after they're born even. And they'll stand against you on that because they can, and they don't care if you don't like it. The same thing with homosexuality, the same thing with transgenderism. They're not going to give an inch, but they expect us to compromise. And our side says, well, we'll not get anywhere if we don't compromise, which is absurd because now you're dividing by half and you're never going to cross the line if you keep doing that.
Patty, one of our Plank owners, she's been here since the beginning. She hails from the Hill Country, Texas. And she asked a great question. She says, are these networks requiring Catholic workers in their networks to perform those evil deeds? So the employees at these hospitals that you mentioned at this Catholic healthcare network, of hospitals, do they require their employees to perform the transgender surgeries or the therapies or abortions or contraception? Can doctors and nurses refuse in good conscience?
So there are a couple of layers to this. Number one, to my knowledge, nobody is being forced to do anything regarding the transgender issue. However, I do know that some hospitals do require their doctors to prescribe contraception if it's asked for. So there is and it all depends on which state you're in too. So there are multiple aspects to this, and the answer is, well, yes and no. There are some instances where there is that force against the conscience, and then there are some instances where no, they're not being forced, but there are other elements though where they are being forced to comply with this gender ideology by referring to people by their preferred pronouns. That is a rule, so you do have to abide by that. Morally speaking, you don't, but the hospital makes a regulation that says that you do. So there is this game that's being played where they say, well, you're free until you disagree with our agenda, and then you're not free.
Wow. I can't help but think about all the parallels in sacred scripture about the corruption of society, sexual morals, murder, corruption in every level. And it goes hand in hand with chastisement, right? They always come with chastisements. And it's interesting when you go to the prophecies of Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador in the 17th century, 1610, there is talk of secret chastisements that come that prevent people from receiving last rites. Does this not sound like the great pandemic we just went through? How many souls went to their deathbed without receiving last rites? And how many bishops spoke out demanding the right to provide that sacrament to the dying? And how many were silent on that, Michael Hichborn?
Not just silent. How many actually stood up and said, no, you are not allowed to give the last rites to individuals who are in this situation? Cardinal Supich. There are several bishops that actually denied the ability to administer last rites. They even tried doing ridiculous things like allowing hospital workers to administer the last rites on behalf of the doctor or on behalf of the priests. Even use distance-making implements so that they could try and administer the sacrament from a distance without touching the individual. I'm sorry, but you have to touch the person. That's part of the ritual. It doesn't work otherwise, and they're monkeying with every element of the sacrament, and it's abominable.
I listened once to a priest give a talk at the Buffalo Catholic Men's Conference a couple years ago. He talked about how he got called to the hospital when the AIDS pandemic broke out, and they had to wear hazmat suits to visit the patients. And the bishop he was with took his hazmat suit off in order to administer last rites to a dying patient, not knowing if he would personally get sick or not, because they didn't know at the time it was true how it all got transmitted. Turns out it was transmitted through homosexual activity. But I think we need that kind of courage in a day and an age where they give themselves over to this darkness. Michael Hichborn, your report is detailed, it's difficult, but it's true, and we appreciate your clarity on this. Thank you, Michael Hichborn, for being on with us today.
Thanks so much for having me on. God bless you. God bless your audience.
LepantoIN.org. LepantoIN.org. We'll link to it. God bless you and God love you.
So what did you think of today's show? Let's discuss that right now in the After Show. Your take on the After Take. Comment, interact live with me and the team. All you need to do is search for one of our live video feeds on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. Simply search for the Station of the Cross, Joe McClain, or A Catholic Take. I'm looking forward to seeing you and interacting with you directly. It all starts right now. It's the After Show.
And we are clear. Welcome to the After Show, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Praise be to God. Hey, can we just get a round of applause for Jake, the producer? Without Jake, this show would not be possible.
What did I do?
Well, just without, we didn't tease Jake on his birthday. I forgot all about it. So we should have teased Jake on his birthday. We forgot that. But either way, without Jake, the show wouldn't be possible. There's so much Jake does behind the scenes to make this doable. Without him, we could pull it off, but it wouldn't be nearly as cool. So everybody, round of applause for Jake, the producer.
Well, thank you.
Good morning to you, Mike K. and Sharon. Good morning to you, Paul. Good morning to you, Yvonne. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Appreciate you guys being here. Pedro C. is in the house on the Telegram group. Pedro, welcome to the team, brother. Glad to have you on the inside. Thanks for doing it. So if you guys aren't on the Telegram group, you got to get in the Telegram group where we hang out 24/7. We talk about very fascinating things like pipe collections and $1 houses in Italy, or €1 houses in Italy. Did you guys probably did not look at? I shared a video. I share interesting things that I find on the internets, and sometimes people watch them. But I watched that video of €1 houses. There are lots of villages and towns in Italy who would be happy to sell you a house for only €1. In beautiful places, by the way, epic scenery, €1. In fact, I heard that in some cases, they'll even pay you a lot of money to be there because they want you there. The reality is there's a reason why they have to do that. And it reminds me of small towns in the United States. I once I was going, in fact, this is 2012. I was on my way to an ordination, the FSSP ordination up in Nebraska. A friend of mine was being ordained, and I drove through Kansas, and Marquette, Kansas. I saw a sign on the side of the road that said free houses or something along the lines of free houses. And then it had like a website or something like that. And it was Marquette, Kansas. And I took a mental note of that. And about a month later, I looked it up. And my mind was blown. There are all these small towns on the plains in Midwest and out towards the West that were trying these schemes to get people to come live there. Italy's given away houses because their economy is not doing great and because they have no children, because their birth rate is so low. They have empty houses and they can't maintain them. And so they'll be happy to give it to some American or European tourist who wants a second house, a vacation home in Italy, but comes with strings attached. And the reality is, it ain't looking good for Italy. What's happening to Italy is exactly what we've been talking about this whole hour. When we don't stand up for truth with courage and boldness, bad things happen. I present to you Italy. There you have it, folks. Rudy Carlos, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Hey, Pedro, let us know where you're from. Jen, good morning to you, Jen. Glad you're on the team today. I see Alberto, our friend from the UK, is in the house. Good morning to you, Alberto. Sharon's commenting over on YouTube. So is Jonas. So is Yvonne. So is Colin. Good morning to you, Colin. Anthony, good morning. Glad you're on the team today, Anthony. Rhaegar82 is over there as well. I'm pretty sure I saw Bridget Dunn. Paul is over there. Good morning to you. Kilroy Jones. Well, welcome to the team, Kilroy. Glad to see you back. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Good morning to you. I got to scroll way back in order to get to. Yeah, there's Bridget. Good morning to you, Bridget. What'd you guys do for the weekend? What did you watch? That's the biggest question every Monday I have is what movies did you watch? I watched All Quiet on the Western Front. I watched it on VidAngel filters so I could cut out some of the gore. It was pretty rough. I'm going to be honest with you. Pretty rough. Now, I had to read All Quiet on the Western Front in school. Jake, did you read All Quiet on the Western Front in school?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Have you ever read it at all? Like, you read it in college then?
No, I actually haven't read it.
Wow. That blows my mind.
I've been reading Storm of Steel first because that one's a little more fun.
A little more fun. Storm of Steel.
Storm of Steel. It's that's one. It's a little less.
Philosophical.
What's the word? No, it's pretty philosophical, but
is it Storm of
he's
Steel?
a little more gung ho. That's Ernst Jünger, and he's a little more like, well, we had to go to war, and here's all the cool parts of that. Obviously he talks about some of the bad stuff too, but he's a little less down the whole thing. He's like, here's all the good things that came out of it.
Can I just say that I am ashamed to say I don't remember All Quiet in the West Front. I know I had to read it. I remember having to read it in school, but I was a terrible reader in those days, and I almost always try to cheat and not have to read the thing. So I actually don't recall. I'd have to go back and read it as if it was the first time. So I watched the movie. Now I'm curious, how close did they follow the book? Because they almost never do, right? That's the other thing. We watched Captain's Courageous. We watched a 1980s era adaptation for television of Captain's Courageous, which is a great book. Rudyard Kipling, I think, is the author. And they changed it so much, It's like they did the Lord of the Rings treatment, and they just changed the book. They were killing characters off. That wait, hold on, this guy doesn't die in the book. What are you doing over here? So I mean, they just reinvent the whole. It was still entertaining for the whole family, by the way. Still, it was a great entertaining film for the whole family. You could watch it, but it's kind of disappointing when they change it so much like that. To date, the only film that I know of that has not really altered the book, Star Wars. Only one so far. Wait for it. Wait for it. No one. Silence. Where's my crickets? I need my crickets. There was no Star Wars book. It was always a movie first. Hello. Good grief. Where's everybody at today? Sci-Fi Mike, good morning. He says, one of the statements in that prophecy, Our Lady of Quito, that got me the most was about the rise in secular education affecting vocations. where I see secular education even impacting the quality of Catholic education. Exactly. That's definitely a big part of this prophecy, is the corruption of education by not just outside forces, but inside forces. That's also a part of that prophecy. There's also parts to talk about how we're addicted to technology too. Laura, good morning to you. She says, on the plane home from vacation, I watched a movie about the fire at Notre Dame. I was disappointed, but not surprised. It was hokey, focusing on firefighters and church personnel and not the sacred. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yikes. Good morning to you, Luz. Glad to see you on the team today. Patty says, you're showing your age with All Quiet on the Western Front. That was standard. Everybody had to read that in school. Come on. I mean,
I'm pretty sure there was another English class, like the other level English class at some point in school did read that. Like I was in the one that didn't. And then,
you
but
were
they
the
were
one,
the one
huh?
that did. Yeah, there was.
I'm surprised that you haven't read it.
Different
it really
required
does surprise me.
reading lists.
You seem to be very well read, Jake. So
there's a lot of books out there, Joe.
I know, but you seem to have read them all. I guess not. I guess you.
I've
you
read.
have disappointed me.
I've read
for
the first
time.
several chapters of many books, and they remain stuck at that section.
Yeah, I listen. It's okay. You can read the first and the last chapter. It's fine. If you're interested, you'll read the middle parts too. But if not, it's okay. It's good enough.
Just
Patty
come
also
for
said
the introit and the last gospel, right? That's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters. Patty also said, never heard of Our Lady of Quito, Ecuador, but it's pretty scary. I've had discussions with neighbors about Jesus loves sinners. I've had to remind them that Jesus came to lead them out of their sin. Yes, that's true. I've had to re-explain chastity. They were totally clueless about St. Anthony's feast day when they lived just minutes from San Antonio. I know, right? Like, yeah, the city of San Antonio, the city of St. Anthony. Yeah, it's also a part of the prophecy, by the way. Again, Mother Mariana de Jesus Torres was born and raised in Spain as a young girl, as a young postulant. She came to the New World on a rickety boat, almost drowned at sea in a violent storm, where she saw a 7-headed dragon in the sky. The girl had visions, many visions, and she endured incredible suffering, incredible injustices. She was put in prison twice. And as I said during the segment, she endured the pains of hell on purpose to save the soul of her enemy. There was one of the native women who had come to join the community was possessed by a devil, and she was trying to disrupt the community and take over and causing tremendous problems, spreading scandalous lies and rumors about Mother Mariana to the bishop, and the bishop suppressed Mother Mariana, put her in prison twice, as I said. And through it all, Mother Mariana was given an option by Jesus in a direct apparition and a direct visitation of the Lord and Savior to Mother Mariana. Hey, you want to save this woman? Yes. Do you really? How bad do you want to save her? I'll do anything. Okay. I'll tell you what. For 5 straight years, you have to endure the pains of hell. For 5 straight years. And you can't tell anybody you're doing it. Are you willing to do that? If you're willing to do that, then I will make sure that this nun goes to purgatory until the second coming, till the end of the world. Then she can make it to heaven. If you're willing to endure the humility, the pain, the suffering, privately, secretly, of the pains of hell. And you can't tell anybody. So, now, by the grace of God, the Lord did reveal this to a couple of the other nuns, the sisters, that Mother Mariana was going through this so that she wouldn't be totally looked on as totally, absolutely crazy. But in fact, she endured she derived zero consolation from prayer, zero consolation from sacraments for 5 straight years. Zero consolations. The torments of hell raged within her. Outwardly, she had to appear normal. Inwardly, she was in complete torment for 5 straight years. And she endured that and saved this. And by the way, the nun had died and she was brought back to life because of Mother Mariana's intercession. And this woman saw the fire of hell and came back and Mother Mariana suffered for her for 5 years, and this woman cared tenderly for Mother Mariana, who was her mortal enemy during that time. And then the woman died again, and she is in purgatory to this day. Mother Mariana died twice, and they tried to bury her twice, and twice she came back to life. I mean, she was dead the first time for, I want to say, 3 days before she came back to life. And part of the prophecy was that her story, the story of her convent, would not be known until the times in which her prophecies would be coming true, and we would be getting close to the end times. That is when her story would be known. So there you go, folks. I found her story in 2020, and I began to read the book that we're linking to in the show notes that, again, the graciousness of Jake is putting up right now, as a matter of fact. So without Jake, very little would happen, to include putting up show notes. So let me know, have you guys ever heard, and Patty's chimed in, have you heard of Our Lady of Quito in Ecuador before? Have you heard of that? Part of the prophecy is that a great monarch will come. A great pope will come. And we will have hope as a result. He will be brave and courageous. He will speak the truth. He will encourage the faithful, like a father encourages his sons. Not like a CEO has a relationship with his employees, isn't that the case for most dioceses today? How many times have you really found a bishop who treats his priest as though they are his sons? Very, very little. Which is why in my screenplay that I'm working on, I include that element, because it's very, very important. And I believe in the end times, that is what we will see. Courageous bishops who treat their priests as though they are sons. Sci-Fi Mike says, I have many Star Wars books. Yes, but they were all written after the film. The film came first. The film was never a book, unlike most everything else. Colin says, I've heard Joe, but not in depth until this show today. Oh, cool. So you have heard of it. That's awesome. Liz says, good morning. Asking for prayers for my grandma and her family. She had a stroke on Friday. I drove 800 miles to get to them. Yesterday, we were told she's ready for hospice. She'll be 95 in August. Thank you. Liz, be assured of our prayers today for you and for your grandma. Definitely praying, Liz. Tim H. Tim, good morning to you, Tim. It was great to see you, by the way, at the Men's March. Says, I watched the last of the Mohicans. Ooh, love it. Who does not love the theme song of the Last Mohicans? If you do not love the theme song of the Last Mohicans, check your pulse. You are likely very dead. And maybe judgment is upon you. He also watched Crimson Tide, Night Moves, and Super Mario Brothers. You watched Night Moves? Really? Super Mario Brothers. Then we also watched, let's see, I watched Captain's Courageous and All Quiet on the Western Front. I also watched on VidAngel Filter's Lyle Lyle Crocodile, which was entertaining because we had filters. If we didn't have filters, probably couldn't have got through it. But the other thing I didn't love about Lyle Lyle Crocodile, it's such a modern film, right? What is the takeaway of Lyle Lyle Crocodile? Is that if you're different, we should embrace you. And fame and becoming an influencer is the end of all goodness, right? Becoming famous and being an influencer and being different. It's kind of cryptic in my way. I think it plants cryptic seeds in the minds of young people who watch that, unfortunately. I felt the same way about the Hugh Jackman film, The Greatest Showman. At first, I got into it. I'm like, man, this is so entertaining. They did such a good job with the songs and all that. And then you're like, wait, are they low-key trying to plant a seed in the hearts of young people here about being different? You know what I mean? About being accepted for who you really are? Yeah, I think so. I think that's the power of media, which is why I say, if I had George Soros' money, I would leverage this strategy to change the world for good because it's currently being leveraged to change the world for evil. It is currently being used in powerful ways to plant seeds in the hearts of young people about being accepted for who they really are, in spite of who rejects them. You know, like the normies, parents, the establishment, society. They would reject you, hunt you, throw you in a zoo and in jail. But we accept you for who you really are. And the best thing one can ever do with their life is to become famous and be an influencer on social media. Like, golly gee whiz, what a sad existence that really is. Boy, would I want to make movies that do the opposite and encourage people through the craft of incredible storytelling, epic production quality, the best performances about to live the good, the true, and the beautiful. Something greater than themselves. I think we could do this world a good if we had the resources and capacity. But maybe, just maybe, in spite of my desire for that, it is God's holy will that we don't do those things. And instead, we must simply proclaim the truth with boldness, with clarity and charity. Angela, good morning to you. She says almost all the movies are planting seeds. Exactly. That's my point. So why can't we plant some seeds too? It's exhausting. So I just quit watching lost movies, lots of movies and TV. Yeah, I know. I've gotten that way too. I used to watch pretty much whatever, and now I can't do it anymore. Just can't do it anymore. I have to be selective. Colin says, Daniel Day-Lewis, Joe, watched the movie in the name of the Father. Great flick, true story. Daniel Day-Lewis, is he not one of the greatest actors ever? I'm not sure how I feel about him personally, but Daniel Day-Lewis, that guy's got so much incredible talent. He's a method actor, though. There's a downside to that. But, I mean, I don't know. Jake, what do you say? Daniel Day-Lewis.
The downside being he's impossible to deal with on the set.
Well, I've heard mixed reports about that, but
I've heard he's pretty pleasant. But yeah.
I think it comes down to the character, like the whole "There Will Be Blood." He didn't get a lot of very good fans on the set on that one, because that character was a curmudgeon, right? Like so he played the curmudgeon the whole time.
Last Mohicans, he was literally just living out in the woods the whole time.
Last of the Mohicans, great film. I love that film.
I love that movie. That's one of my favorite.
I made my kids learn how to play that song.
Good.
But Daniel Day-Lewis, easily the top 5 greatest actors of all time. Would you say?
Of all time? Maybe of all time. He's great. I think he's great. I think he's absolutely phenomenal.
You're like, of all time?
My list of greatest actors of all time, is like, it's all like mid-century Shakespearean actors. So.
Okay. So where do you place Daniel Day-Lewis? Greatest of actors of all time? Top 10?
I could see fitting him in the top 10. He really is fantastic. He is actually
fantastic. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Denzel Washington. He's on my top 5.
I like Denzel a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's great. You know what I really like Denzel in? Speaking of Shakespeare, is
no, you're not. You're gonna say it.
Yeah, the
Macbeth.
The court. No, not that one. The comedy. The blanking out the name. Not As You Like It. The other one. Yeah, I'm forgetting it too. It's got him and Kenneth Branagh and Emma. What's her face?
It's called. It starts with a C. Right? No, it's Othello.
No, that Othello's not a comedy.
No. What is it called?
I'm totally. I have it right.
I've forgotten
in my head.
about that.
It's a great little movie. One of those great little '90s Shakespeare movies. It's.
I forgot that he was in that.
Yeah. He's in that.
Did you see?
Isn't Keanu Reeves the villain in that? I think. And
did you see Macbeth?
Not with Denzel.
Macbeth?
No.
I haven't seen it either because it's on like Apple TV or something. So I can't watch it.
I think I saw a clip from it actually. I think I was comparing Macbeth speeches and I saw a video of that. And
Alberto's got Al Pacino in his younger days on the list. You got Al Pacino in your top 5, Alberto? Al Pacino's one of those actors.
But he's
Al Pacino is one of those actors where he only just plays himself. Can Al Pacino be? I guess. Okay.
No, it's more
Scarface,
like he's. It's more like he's only plays his younger self. In his younger years, he was able to play other characters, and then he became a parody of himself.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because he's incredible in the Godfather films. And then Scarface is like
I didn't say he was
a
bad actor.
I'm saying
he's really just doing himself. He's another Clint Eastwood. He's another Kevin Costner. He's that kind of guy where he just reads the lines.
He became a parody of himself in that way.
The Heat and The Godfather is not like a lot of diff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but the Scarface, he puts on an accent. He's got a mannerism that's different. So he's stretching himself a little bit more there.
In the earlier days, I think,
Robert Duvall, 100%, Colin. Robert Duvall is an incredible actor. I'm right there with you, Colin. Totally with you on that one. Who was it? Oh, Colin said Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot, masterpiece. I don't think I've watched that one.
Much Ado About Nothing. That's it.
Anthony says another great movie, Ben-Hur, the original with Charlton Heston or the remake. Which one are we talking, Anthony?
Heston's a pretty fantastic actor.
Did you like Charlton Heston?
I think he's fantastic.
Remember when he made that speech when he was the NRA president?
That was funny too. That was good.
Out of my cold, dead hand. You got to take it from my cold, dead hand.
You have to put your teeth together after every word.
Cold, dead hand. Oh, man. You damn dirty ape. Remember that? Oh, man. Charlton Heston. What a hoot. Yeah. Ben-Hur, Charlton Heston, definitely better than the remake, right? I mean, we can all agree to that. Like, that's not even a debate, is it? The remake wasn't as good as the Charlton Heston version. And, of course, I own 10 Commandments. I mean, it's so epic. So epic. Rhaegar82 says, I watched a lot of the best ever food review shows. Court Rhaegar82. Boy. It reminds me of my grandmother, God rest her soul. She used to love watching, what was that, the police reality television show with the ride-alongs, Bad Boys, what you gonna do? She used to watch a lot of that. She used to also watch a lot of court TV, all that stuff. Wow. Original, says Anthony. Of course, the original. What are we even talking about here? Sci-Fi Mike says, although Disney wiped out its canon status, who do they think they are? The USCCB? Whoo! Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was a good dig right there, Sci-Fi. That's a good dig. Kelly Ann says, I'm looking forward to the movie Sound of Freedom with Jim Caviezel. Nefarious is out on the Amazon too. Yeah, I saw Nefarious out on the Amazons. By the way, hand raise, how many people have Amazon devices in their homes? How many people have the doorbell things? And I don't know if you caught this, but I reported on this over a year ago now. Amazon was quietly in the background without people knowing. So if you have an Amazon doorbell service and you have the Amazon Echo Puck thing or Alexa Puck or whatever the thing is called, and you have any other Amazon connected devices in your home, when you do that, Amazon connects all those devices in the homes, recognize all of them, and then they on the back end will connect your devices to other devices in your neighborhood in a secret network that they allow the authorities to access. Did you know that? That is a thing. They also allow people to have Wi-Fi connectivity through your devices. They call it the sidewalk network. So people walking down the network could access a portion of your Wi-Fi carved out through your Amazon connected devices. So the local police department, if there was a crime in your neighborhood, could access without needing this was the story a year ago. It could have changed. I haven't looked it up, so take this with some grain of salt. But the story was that the police could access without needing a warrant the footage on your device to see if your camera saw something related to a crime. Yeah. Good times, huh? So, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, obviously, because I'm writing a screenplay that takes place at the end of time. So what does a dystopian society look like if it's not AI, interconnected, related, where they could, at the flip of a switch, cut you off from society? Do you think a digital dollar would be an important part of controlling a society like that? Or a social media score that's managed through connected phones that you're required to carry, which is part of the prophecy of Our Lady of Quito, that in the 19th and 20th centuries, that they would be some sort of black box that controls people's lives? Who's one of your favorite actors? Mike. Cary Grant. Mike K puts on the list Cary Grant, Mel Gibson, James Stewart, Toshiro Mifune. I don't even know how to say that correctly.
Oh.
Gene Hackman.
Toshiro Mifune.
How did we forget? How do we forget Gene Hackman? But another one of those actors who only plays Gene Hackman. Does Gene Hackman play anybody else but Gene Hackman? No. Great though. I love him. Liz put on the board Christopher Walken. Yeah, he definitely. Christopher Walken, Clint Eastwood, Kevin Costner, Gene Hackman, and Al Pacino all play themselves. Alberto's got Gregory Peck and Clint Eastwood. So true. Studebaker Hauk. Good morning to you, Studebaker Hauk. Says, I would never have one of those Amazon devices in my home, but when I walk into someone else's house who has one, I always say, Alexa, shut down the government. That's so good. I would never have one of those. Yeah, amen. I like it. Alexa, shut down the government. Okay, shutting down the government. You know, it's hilarious. Colin says, 1980s great movies, young and innocent, music, sports. So Amazon can sell you cheap crap. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Alberto puts on Bob Mitchum, Michael Caine. Yeah, there's a lot of great actors for sure. Our Echo Dot didn't last. It was a gift. Yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? Sci-Fi says, I have to say that my big three are the comedic actors who transitioned to mainstream. Robin Williams, Tom Hanks, and Michael Keaton. It's harder to make people laugh than it is to cry. You know, it is interesting to see them make the transition, like Robin Williams for sure, to make his transition into more serious films. Talk about talent. Robin Williams had such great talent, but cocaine ruined his life forever. Cocaine screwed up his brain. He would never be the same after that addiction to cocaine. No matter how hard he tried to overcome it, it definitely led to his downfall and his overdosing and his death. But incredible talent Robin Williams had. Tom Hanks. Who remembers Joe versus the Volcano? Who remembers The Man with One Red Shoe? Who remembers him playing a gay guy? Come on, man. Tom Hanks. What are you doing to me? Tom Hanks. Very talented, though. Who doesn't like Tom Hanks acting? I don't know. Rodney Dangerfield. You don't like Tom Hanks acting?
He kind of...
Oh,
he
come on.
He kind of annoys me in most movies.
Does he?
Yeah. There's a few where he's pretty good, but most of the time he kind of just is like...
I love Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
How's it go?
I'm playing a wholesome, lovable character. Like that. That's like him in most movies. Even when he was playing isn't he like kind of the villain in that Elvis movie? And I saw a clip and I was like, this is making me laugh. He's not like playing a villain at all. I'm laughing at like, there's like, I'm the evil colonel who tells Elvis what to do. You're supposed to hate me. And I'm like, this looks like an SNL skit.
Tim H weighs in with a bold choice. Tim H with a bold choice. William Shatner, greatest actor and singer.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Tim, my friend, I'm not so not there with you, brother.
Spock.
What is going on? I don't know. What's got into me?
There's a man out there.
I loved William Shatner. I thought William Shatner as Captain Kirk was amazing when I was a kid. My dad, he was a boy when he was a young man. He wasn't just a boy. He was a young man when the first series came out in the 60s. And when it went, and he loved it so much that when it went off the air, he petitioned them to bring it back. like he started a petition to get it back on the air. He recorded every episode when it went into syndication on cassette tape.
That's amazing.
And we used to listen to every episode on cassette over and over again.
My dad was such a Trekkie fan. Such a Trekkie fan. You know, he had a hard time with things like Deep Space Nine. It was just too inventive, too new. It just changed too much for his liking. Gene Wilder is on the board. Steve McQueen is on the board. Paul Newman is on the board. Wow. So many names to consider here. Kevin Costner is one of those actors. Yeah. Never seen him in a bad or unsuccessful movie. I don't know. The Postman didn't do that great. Waterworld?
Waterworld.
I don't know. God love you guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.